Welcome to the Asshole Book Club. I've been thinking of changing, the name of my channel to just Tab, abbreviating it. That way YouTube can't complain about me having the word ass in my, channel's name. Let me know what you think of that. Just T.A.B. with the little dots in between. Anyway, I'm doing more RPG horror stories because I love D&D. And I've been thinking about playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition since I was there for the playtest, like when they just had some materials out and it wasn't fully fleshed out. And I actually ran that game. It was pretty fun. But I haven't actually played it, so who knows? Let me know if you have played 2E and if you think it's any good. Anyway, RPG horror stories. I'm just going straight down the line again. 23 hours ago, DM traps players in a death loop cycle and forces players to babysit evil DM PCs. Okay. This one says extra long, so I might just do one today because, wow, that's a book. A short book, but a book. Hi, everyone. I'm new to the community here, although I've been listening to RPG horror stories all the time from different YouTubers. Well, I hope you check me out once I'm big enough for people to actually get recommended my channel. I have a cautionary tale here about what happens when a fledgling DM doesn't take advice well, and when they try to railroad players. I hope you enjoy. Let the pain commence. The story begins when I introduced a good friend of mine, at the time, to D&D, a friend we will call Caster. It was Caster who introduced me to a few others interested in D&D like he was, and so we forged a group of 6 to 7 people together. Oof. All except me, new to the game, and all of them except me were new to the game and eager to learn the thrills of TTRPG. I had 6 years of experience as a player and 3 as a DM, so I made an adventure that ended up lasting for years, all of which the party was eager to play in and grow their first characters. Caster had some occasional things he needed to work on. No. Jesus, this cat. As soon as that cat hears me sitting down here, he frickin' rushes my stuff. Okay. Caster had some occasional things he needed to work on. I can share more stories later if you want. But for the most part, he took to D&D well, and ended up surprising me with a revelation I would later look back on with some regret. At some point, Caster revealed to me that he wanted to make his own campaign, and turned to me for guidance. We would hang out many times outside of D&D in order to help him build his world. Sometimes I would listen for a few hours and give little ideas or tweaks. Other times I would be a more active collaborator in his world building. As an avid D&D fan, I was beyond ecstatic to see a player of mine growing and starting a campaign of their own, and couldn't wait to play in it. Before I go any further, I just want to say that I knew his campaign would be a little rough around the edges, or their campaign. As someone with more experience as a DM and a player, I could tell Caster would need some guidance with the technical aspects of running his game. And he was actually agreeable with this, asking for guidance sometimes and wanting feedback at the end of a session. That being said, I was not prepared for what I'm about to share with you. The session 0 was really cool, and everyone rolling up some interesting characters. A rogue assassin on the run, a child bard with a broken home, a druidic adventurer with a broken home, and my character, a one-armed human fighter looking to avenge his dead wife. The first problem came up in the first session When the story started with a TPK via a red dragon before our first dice roll. Before the journey started, we were all dead. Okay. That's interesting. Castor used this to introduce us to a mechanic where TPKs would result in a time rewind, similar to some anime he was really fond of. I remember him talking about this before when we were hanging out, but I expressed to him that it may not be the best idea to use. In hindsight, I should have been more firm about this, but here we are, reviving an hour before and told by the DM we needed to figure out a way to not die again. Okay. In some ways, it was an interesting way to run the plot, but more often than not, it would lead to us fighting overpowered enemies with encounters that weren't balanced correctly. After the first 2 or 3 death battles, as I would call them, Castor was agreeable and balanced out the encounters, but after this point he would argue and say that since TPKs just meant a reset in time and not permadeath, he didn't need to balance the game. And coming back each time may give us clues and new opportunities to beat these tougher opponents. This problem would then lead to Castor not wanting to engage us in combat at all some point, and as I could tell, he was having some trouble with balancing. I asked about this a few times and offered to help, but he kept insisting we would reach combat, even though if we ever tried to initiate combat, some NPCs or other outside circumstances would shut it down unless it was a highly choreographed battle Castor planned. And then came the twins. Oh no. The DM had a pair of DMPCs in the form of young vampire children. One DMPC is bad enough, but a pair of them is just obnoxious, especially when you have a table of 6 or 7 people. Like, Christ. Are these 8-hour sessions all of you are running? Because I would fall asleep halfway through, honestly. 2 vampire twins inspired by an anime he enjoyed. The twins were abused in a horrible variety of ways I will not mention because of their trauma, they were psychotic killing machines who could coat their weapons in blood and wield them in a heightened state of power that made them ridiculously overpowered. I remember one time I asked him to see their character sheets and he refused, only letting me know that they were level 20, a pair of literal monsters. There was a quest line I remember Castor was the most excited to have us play out, a criminal quest line where we help this gnome criminal overlord help unite various bandit nations and small groups of civil unrest unite under his wing. A point which the gnome justified that there would always be crime in this world, and as long as he could control it, the world would be a better place. The twins, of course, were a big part of it, as they were practically the pets of the gnome guy and his most loyal followers, him acting as a sort of strange surrogate father to them. These 2 elements combining together meant that we would often encounter these 2 twin NPCs, having them come in and sweep up the mess if a combat encounter had us TPK 2 or 3 times. They would just randomly show up, erase every threat, and contrive an excuse as to how they got there. The whole party talked to Castor about this at some point, saying we didn't want to be babysat by his OP twins. But he ended up taking this in the opposite direction and had us babysit them. Perhaps out of kindness or maybe survival instinct, who would want to fight a level 20 vampire child as a level 3 or 4? The party would be nice to the children and show them kindness. which would offer nice little glimpses into their lost humanity. That being said, the gnome guy used this as an opportunity to rein us into his criminal syndicate, offering us whatever we sought and saying that the children liked us. My character was a lawful neutral guy, understanding the point of law and order and trying to be the best to most decent folk, but not afraid to break the rules and do dirty work if it was for the greater good. That being said, my character was not interested in joining the gnome syndicate, so my screen time was cut drastically in a lot of areas, other times having my guys set on random missions that most of us could tell were busy work. I asked Caster if there was some other angle I could work, and he did, but not in the way I hoped for. He ended up resurrecting my character's dead wife and making her evil. An evil NPC that walked around like a Grim Reaper ripoff, complete with dark armor and a scythe. I wasn't asked about that later on, but by then I didn't want to stifle his creativity and went along with it. Though I should have told him my apprehensions. Now my character's wife was some sort of dark evil spirit. Yay. At this time, the child bard, controlled by a player I will call Hyper, was beginning to hang around with the twins more outside of the missions, which had me worried due to some outside events. See, Caster had an IRL crush on Hyper and was beginning to act strange around her, getting to the point where he would literally try to always be next to her and sometimes mimic her actions and try to copy her personality to get her to notice him. Okay. How much longer of this do we have to go? Criminy. Crap, Alright. We called him out on this, and he feigned innocence whilst simultaneously apologizing. This put aside Caster's strange actions against Hyper IRL, though he has more instances of doing this with other women at the table. I can share more later. Have you ever thought about sharing less? Like maybe summarizing this so it's not 12,000 characters long? But Hyper's Bard was not the best pal of the vampire twins, and she got all the screen time for a while. There was a time the party split, with some of us seeking more information in a new town about various guild merchants and looking for answers to rumors of a criminal presence in the new town. This got 1/3 of the session's screen time. You keep saying screen time, like, are you all playing online, or do you think this is a TV show? Like, it's just game time. I don't know why you're saying screen time. With the other 2/3 dedicated to Hyper's character, another female character, and the twins going to a candy shop. Inexplicably doted on by the shop owner and given tons of free candy samples to try. So here we are, with one half of the party put on hold to watch the other half eat candy. That wasn't the worst of it, however. When the twins would follow us around, they would no longer help us in combat. The DM took to heart we didn't want to be babied in combat, yet anytime there was a chance for them to fight, which it was established they loved to kill, they would just leave combat and hang back, doing childish shenanigans and watching us die time after time, not even lifting a finger if we asked for help. On top of that, there was a point where the party members who joined the syndicate, I remained firm in not joining despite feeling railroaded to help by the fact that the gnome was now our only quest giver, had to go talk to the gnome and turn in a quest. There was a little flavor moment of the twins in their own room playing with toys and hanging out, and of course, Hyper wanted to see what was going on. For 30 minutes to an hour, we all watched in confusion as the campaign was put on pause for Hyper, a random girl NPC, and the twins to play toy dragons and ships in their room. Criminy. I wish I could say the story has a good end, but it does not. I apologize for how scatterbrained it was, but as you can tell, things did get a bit derailed as time went on in order to force us to be around the DM's preferred NPCs. At some point, there was a falling out in the group due to some things I will not talk about here, and the game just sort of fizzled out. I hope you all enjoy this story. And then there's a paragraph that is the TLDR. I'm pretty sure the TLDR is supposed to be an abbreviation of what happened. Like, criminy. And the top comment says that the animes the guy we're coppering was ReZero and Black Lagoon. Cool. Honestly, I would have just left to, like, start off with. Like, you have a creepy DM who's trying to flirt with all your female players. That's red flag number 1. You have someone trying to mimic animes. That's red flag number 2. And then you have someone that just doesn't understand the game, how the game works, and doesn't seem to be willing to learn. Even like small things like balancing an encounter. That's red flag number 3. And then you have DM PCs in general, which is red flag number 4. Like, you don't need the DM to have a character in the story. It's just not necessary. They're there to run a game, not run a character. It's as simple as that. I play in a game that has a DM PC, but there's only 2 players, so it balances out a bit more, but I still don't find them necessary in the slightest. Alright, thank you for watching. Sorry it was very long. I clicked a very long story, and honestly, I feel like they could have shortened it a little bit. Like, it was unnecessarily long, in my humble opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, everyone, and I will see you later.